Chapter 1 of East of Eden admonished us to remember in the Salinas Valley, standing for places where we all live, that we're standing above history and prehistory. And in the Salinas Valley, particularly, Steinbeck reminisces that there was sea and there was forest, and if you dig down a certain depth, you can be in prehistory and walk and tread and trod over thousands and thousands of years ago. Well, now it's come to fruition, and in a very literal way, we're doing that. And the wisest in the book, Samuel Hamilton, is the one doing the drilling, and now he's with his boys, and he's at the Trask household, and he's drilled down 30 feet to a C section of the underground, and he hits metal, and he's excited, and joy is not to be kept to oneself, and so Samuel is seemingly always shares his joy with his boys. And Samuel, upon his discovery, says this: "It must have been long 1,000 centuries ago," Samuel said, and his sons knew he was seeing it. "Maybe it was all water here, an inland sea with the seabirds circling and crying, and it would have been a pretty thing if it had happened at night. There would come a line of light, and then a pencil of white light, and then a tree of blinding light drawn in a long arc from heaven. Then there'd be a great water spout and a big mushroom of steam, and your ears would be staggered by the sound because the soaring cry of its coming would be on you at the same time the water exploded. And then it would be black night again because of the blinding light, and gradually you'd see the killed fish coming up, showing silver in the starlight, and the crying birds would come to eat them. It's a lonely, lovely thing to think about, isn't it? He made them see it as he always did." Tom said softly, "You think it's a meteorite, don't you?" "That I do, and we can prove it," Samuel says. So in a very Genesis 1:1, Genesis 1:2 kind of way, there's darkness and there's deep, and then what does God say in Genesis 1:3? "Let there be light." The birth of a Savior. When all is darkness around Bethlehem, a star appears, and wise men from where? Wise men from the east follow the star. And so here we have Samuel Hamilton drilling down into prehistory, and with his poetic mind, the grandfather of our author, the great author John Steinbeck, it seems like he has some Steinbeck in him off the top of his head, and he can drill down 30 feet down, find metal, and extrapolate from that sheer poetry, the poetry of the stars. And he is excited, not because of the monetary benefits, but because of the sheer beauty. Again, the contrast between the joy of someone like Samuel Hamilton and the utter misery of someone like Kathy. Someone who is sitting there, wealthy, with a husband who will do anything for her, and she's miserable, and Samuel is there digging on their property without a penny of savings in the world, and he couldn't be more stoked at his finding of this ancient meteorite and what that triggers in the prehistorical poetic sense that he has. Just then, Lee comes riding like a crazy person, and the news is that Kathy is going into labor, and Adam needs Samuel to come as quickly as possible. Samuel tells his boys, interestingly, this would not have made my top 10 of things to attend a birth. He tells his boys to go home and get a copy of The Principles of Psychology by William James. So when Steinbeck mentions a book by name, it seems like we should take notice. Off the top of my head, he's mentioned 3 other books so far. He's mentioned the Bible, particularly in Liza's way of reading the Bible, that she doesn't read for understanding or morality. She just reads it over and over and over again, not checking for the meaning or the theology, not systematizing it, not moralizing it. She just reads it. Second book I remember is when Kathy's high school Latin teacher, the failed seminarian, commits suicide. He also has the Bible, but he has the Book of Common Prayer, which I believe is an Anglican document that helps with order of worship. So there's a double irony, killing yourself on the Bible and the Book of Common Prayer. Kathy is caught by her mom, and she is reading Alice in Wonderland. There's probably a whole essay that could be said about the theme of Alice in Wonderland and how that relates to Kathy, something I haven't thought about at all. And now here, The Principles of Psychology by William James. And so this is a long book, so long that it's a 2-volume book, and he gets into all sorts of... So the title of that book, if we judge that book by its cover, we might think it's just the discipline of psychology we know now in the 21st century, but it's really a lot broader than that. It gets into philosophy, religion, and particularly this book by William James is known for talking about babies, and that babies come into a chaotic, confusing, busy, bewildering world. And so I don't think it's any accident that Steinbeck actually names the title of the book to give us a foreshadowing of the kind of world that babies will be born into, even at the end of this very chapter. And so he wants them to... You would think it would be, towels and soap and whatever it is you use to deliver a baby. But no, he wants a 2-volume psychology book. Well, when he gets near the place, he meets Lee. And again, our ears should perk up when Lee and Samuel are talking to each other, because it's Steinbeck's 2 real voices of wisdom at this point in the novel. And so here they are. They walked the horses rapidly toward the little draw of the Trask place. Samuel said, "Tell me how it is with the mother," and that's talking to Lee. This is Lee responding to Samuel. "I'd rather you saw for yourself and thought for yourself," Lee said. "You know, when a man lives alone as much as I do, his mind can go off on an irrational tangent just because his social world is out of kilter. Yes, I know, but I'm not lonely, and I'm on a tangent too, but maybe not the same one. You don't think I imagine it then? I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you for your reassurance that I've a sense of strangeness." "I guess that's all it is with me too," said Lee. He smiled. "I'll tell you how far it got with me, though. Since I've come here, I find myself thinking of Chinese fairy tales my father told me. We Chinese have a well-developed demonology." "You think she's a demon?" "Of course not," said Lee. "I hope I'm a little beyond such silliness. I don't know what it is. You know, Mr. Hamilton, a servant develops an ability to taste the wind and judge the climate of the house he works in, and there's a strangeness here. Maybe that's what makes me remember my father's demons." "Did your father believe in them?" "Oh, no. He thought I should know the background. You Occidentals," which is just a fancy word for people who are from the West, "perpetuate a good many myths too." And so Samuel and Lee come from the idea that to be a loving person is to believe people to the degree that you're able to. So neither of them inside their own heads want to believe that Kathy is really evil, yet they just replace the word evil with a strangeness. Also, a good deal of wisdom is to not just deal with such things inside your own head. And so Samuel and Lee want to run their thoughts past someone else to get someone outside their head perspective. And though they come from entirely different perspective, Lee is alone in the world, Samuel is the opposite of alone in the world, yet they agree on one thing: that Kathy is strange. And I'm sure there's a name to this literary device. I don't have it for you off the top of my head, but I think Steinbeck says something by not saying something. By both characters negating the fact that she's a demon, it puts in our head that she is a demon. And so whether we literally believe in demons, we literally believe Kathy is a demon, is beside the point. Because the very fact that they have to discuss whether or not she's a demon certainly puts back in our head the 2 voices we respect most in this novel so far Lee and Samuel, if they have to have a discussion about whether she's a demon or not, tells you a lot about her. So on the very floor of things, there's a strangeness, and on the ceiling of things, she's a demon. And so that's a scale that you don't want to be on at all. And yet that's where Kathy finds herself. Strange to demonic.